Dallas Mavericks this year have been amazing. Like, honestly, this is a really good team, and I really believe that they are the most dangerous team in the NBA heading into the playoffs. As of now, the Dallas Mavericks sit with a 39-26 record. They are 7th in the Western Conference, and though you may be saying, oh, they're a 7th seed, who cares? That's the bottom half of the league. But those who watch the Dallas Mavericks games know that in a 7-game series, they are not some push-away team. And if we're being honest here, a lot of their record is really due to injuries and inconsistencies from certain players. But before we get into all of that, if you are not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified, and please drop a like so I can keep making fire content just like this video. But without further ado, let's talk about why the Dallas Mavericks are the most dangerous team in the NBA heading into this postseason. When you look at this Dallas Mavericks team, there is no doubt in my mind that they could give any team in the Western Conference a legit good 7-game series. Because when you look at this team and how they're constructed, they have 2 top players and a roster full of great depth. And in the playoffs, that's really what you need. You don't need a 10 or 15 man roster because you're not going to go that deep come postseason time, because rotations will start to get a little bit more smaller. And when you look at the fact that they have 2 players that in my mind are top 20 to 30 players in the NBA at least, because it does depend on where you put Porzingis, I think the combination of those 2 and all the other role players on this team and the coaching will definitely be in favor of the Mavericks come postseason time. Because when you look at teams like the Utah Jazz or the Denver Nuggets, I think one of the reasons that a lot of people don't take them serious is because they don't have a superstar, or at least 2 star players on the offensive side of the ball that can dictate the game to that level. Because even though the Jazz have Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert is arguably their best player and is a star center, but offensively he is not a star. What makes him a star is his impact on the defensive side of the ball. And when you look at a team like the Denver Nuggets, sure, they have players like Jamal Murray, Will Barton, also Gary Harris, but their best player is Nikola Jokic, and a lot of people would argue that he is not even a superstar, even though he's a top 10 to 15 player in the NBA. But when you look at a team like the Dallas Mavericks, you have a guy like Luka Doncic, who in my personal opinion is a top 10 player in the league and is a top 5 candidate for the MVP, while putting up ridiculous numbers of 29 points, 9 assists, and 9 rebounds, while shooting 46% from the field, 32% from 3, as well as 75 to 76% from the free throw line. And though Luka Doncic is not great on the defensive side of the ball, this team has surrounded Luka with good defenders all over the place, and one of them is Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis this year has been one of the best rim protectors in the NBA, and I don't know why a lot of people are not talking about it, because even in the beginning of the year, a lot of people were on Kristaps Porzingis' ass because offensively he was struggling, even though he had not played basketball in over a year. It was just ridiculous the amount of hate that I was seeing directed towards Kristaps Porzingis when he was one of the most loved players in the NBA during his time in New York. But offensively, his game has been catching up to his productivity on the defensive side of the ball. Because over the last 15 games since he's come back from his injury, he has averaged 25 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal, while shooting 47% from the field, around 37 to 38% from 3, as well as shooting 84% from the free throw line. So it is very obvious that as the season has progressed, Porzingis has also progressed in his offensive productivity, which you love to see, especially coming from a player that is recovering from an ACL injury. But then we move on to the role players, because I'll be back to Luka and KP in a minute. The role players on this team are very critical towards the Mavericks' success, because you could have all the stars in the world, but at the end of the day, what do they say? Role players win championships. I mean, just look at last season with the Toronto Raptors. As great as Kawhi Leonard played, and also Siakam and Lowry in the finals, we have to give credit where credit is due to guys like Danny Green, Marc Gasol, Fred VanVleet. Those guys stepped up, and without them, there's a good chance the Raptors don't win. And when you look at a team like Dallas, I think that complements that philosophy very well, because I'm not saying that Dallas is a championship ready team right now at this moment, but a lot of the role players that they have around Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis definitely complement their games to the best of their ability. And looking at this Dallas Mavericks team, I definitely see some parallels in the collection of talent at the role player spots. You have a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith, who isn't going to go out there and give you 20 a night or anything, but what he does give the Dallas Mavericks is some defensive flexibility. He can guard 1 through 3, and depending on how big the power forward is, he could even guard some 4s. And on a team that has Luka Doncic on it, that is very valuable, because we all know you need to hide him on the defensive side of the ball. But then you also have other players such as Tim Hardaway Jr., who was seen as damaged goods that was overpaid in New York with the Knicks, but this year is kind of having a resurgence year with the Mavericks, averaging 16 points while also shooting around 41% from behind the 3-point line. But then it gets even better with a guy like Seth Curry, who is not only one of the best role players in the league, but is one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA, while also being ridiculously efficient. This is a guy that's averaging 13 points off the bench while shooting 50% from the field, 45% from 3, and 84% from the free throw line. And then you got other guys such as Delon Wright and Jalen Brunson, who I'm not going to spend too much time on, because if you look into those guys and their numbers, they're decent 3-point shooters. They can come in off the bench and just provide a level of consistency, while guys like Luka and Tim Hardaway sit out, as well as Dorian Finney-Smith. And I definitely think that they fulfilled their role to the best of their abilities, and there's not much more you can ask out of guys like that. Now, I know a lot of people are probably saying, look, this is a solid roster. They can have some good games in the playoffs, but at best they're what? A second round exit or even a first round exit, depending on who gets that 2nd to 3rd seed and if the Mavericks can get higher in the Western Conference seeding. But I gotta be real with you guys. I could see this team superseding a lot of people's expectations come postseason time, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this team in the 2nd round or potentially even in the conference finals. And let me explain that, because a lot of people are probably listening to that take and saying, what the hell, that makes no sense. They're the 7th seed. They're gonna lose in the 1st round to the 2nd seed, or hell, even if they got to the 6th, they're gonna lose to the 3rd seed. Well, let me explain something to you guys real quick. The Dallas Mavericks seeding is not a great representation for how great they actually are as a team, because as great as their season has been and how much of a surprise they are to the NBA, they should even be greater. They should even have more wins, and the reason that they don't is due to injuries. Let's not forget that Dwight Powell was their starting center and tore his Achilles earlier on in the season. Let's not forget that Luka Doncic has had 2 ankle injuries that has caused him to miss 2 stretches of games so far this season. Let's not forget that Kristaps Porzingis is out every other game due to soreness in his hamstring or his leg or any other part of his lower body, because of the fact that he is recovering from an ACL injury, or the fact that he might be injury prone, but that's a topic for another discussion. But yeah, that's why the Mavericks are the 7th seed. And if you remember earlier on in the season, they were hovering around that 3 to 5 range in the West until Luka's first ankle injury. And during that time span, they showed a lot of heart and determination, and it was especially on full display when they faced the Bucks on December 16th, the first game without Luka Doncic. Guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, Jalen Brunson, Maxi Kleber, Seth Curry, and Delon Wright, they all showed up in their own right, no pun intended, and they got the job done and beat the Milwaukee Bucks, who at that time had only lost 3 games. But in conclusion, you guys, I love Luka Doncic. He is one of my favorite players to watch, and I also love Kristaps Porzingis, so there may be a little bit of biasness in me when I talk about this team. But make no mistake about what I said, I definitely still wholeheartedly believe that they have a legitimate shot at upsetting some of the higher seeds in the Western Conference. So teams like the Nuggets, Rockets, and the Jazz, I honestly believe that they should be on watch, because the Mavericks are coming and they are a threat to those guys. Because outside of the Lakers and the Clippers, I don't see a single team in the West that could decisively beat the Dallas Mavericks. And even if the Mavericks end up losing in the first round anyways, let's be real, we all know they're gonna come with some more heat next year, because Luka's only gonna get better, Porzingis is only gonna get better, the coach is only gonna stay the same because Rick Carlisle is one of the most underrated coaches in the NBA, and the Mavericks are going to dominate the next 10 years of the league until my boys Zach LaVine and Larry Markkinen are ready to take it over. But that's a topic for another day. Make sure you guys drop a like down below so I can keep making fire content just like this video. Hit that subscribe button and also hit that bell to be notified after each and every single video that I drop. Comment your opinions. I would love to know what you guys think about the Dallas Mavericks and how far they're going to go come postseason time and how great their season has been. And also do not forget to follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, and add me on Snapchat. All of my social media links are down below in the description box. This is your boy Young Mustard signing out. Y'all have a great day. Peace.